Dear participants, our esteemed presenters, good morning. My name is Özgün Çınar. I am the General Manager of Trasta ESG Consulting, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Before we begin, I would like to extend my greetings to all of you on behalf of the Trasta ESG team. We are gathered here for the third one of the Sustainable One webinars organized in collaboration with S&P Global and Trasta ESG. As we all know, sustainability is an extremely current topic and is at the forefront of all managers' agendas. Today, all stakeholders, especially consumers and investors, demand that companies operate by adopting sustainability principles. Otherwise, they may choose not to purchase products from these companies or invest in them. Therefore, measuring sustainability performance is becoming increasingly important. In addition to sustainability reports, sustainability rating or CSA processes plays a crucial role in presenting sustainability performance objectively. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the importance and application of these tools will grow in the coming years. Additionally, the legal regulations being implemented worldwide currently reinforce this observation. We have come together today to discuss these topics, and we have two esteemed guests. Mr. Robert Dornau, Global Head of Corporate Engagement at S&P Global, will share insights about corporate sustainability assessment process, while Mrs. Filiz Avşar Aktaş, Chairperson Office and Sustainability Coordinator at SMART Güneş Teknolojileri, will provide valuable insights about their sustainability journey. I know you are all eagerly waiting for the start of the event. Therefore, I would like to conclude my remarks and give the floor to our esteemed panelists. For the comfort of participants following the event from their mobile phones, I will turn off my camera from this point onward. However, I will be here, and you will see me during the breaks and at the Q&A section at the end of our event. Thank you very much again for joining us today. And I'm leaving the floor to Robert for his presentation about CSA processes. Robert, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so thank you very much to Trasta ESG for organizing this webcast with us. Turkey is an important market for sustainability, and a lot of Turkish companies are invited to participate in the corporate sustainability assessment. We're very happy to do this now for the third time, to be able to present to Turkish companies. I was in Turkey in person some years back, and I tried to practice to pronounce sustainability in Turkish, but I gave up. It's quite a tongue twister for a German speaker. So apologies for not even pronouncing that in Turkish. What I want to do today is to, when the slides allow me, explain to you what motivates companies to participate in our assessment, how it works, and who is using the results. And then we will have, after the presentation of my fellow panelists, we will have time for Q&A. So let me dive in. The CSA was started more than 25 years ago by a boutique asset manager in Zurich called Sustainable Asset Management, and it is addressing sustainability through the lens of an investor. So we are looking at how well companies are able to really understand the impact of sustainability on their business, on their growth, profitability, capital efficiency, and risk exposure, the impact of sustainability on the corporate value drivers. And what the CSA helps a company to do is to really be transparent in an unambiguous, easy to understand way about how they link sustainability and business strategies in their company. As I said, it has been around for over 25 years now. We are very proud to have 26 companies that participate all those 25 years. You can see the names here. There are 2 companies from Turkey that participated 11 years. That is Türkiye Garanti Bankası and Anadolu Efes breweries. I hope I pronounced that halfway correctly. So I'm very grateful to those long-term committed companies in Turkey. You see the growth of participation on the right. There was a massive increase since 2019. That is when the CSA was purchased by S&P Global, building on a 20-year relationship that was established with S&P Dow Jones indices already in 1999, where the CSA results were used to include companies in the Dow Jones sustainability indices managed by S&P Global Index. And with that acquisition, there was a big push to invite more companies to make the results more transparent. And that resulted in really this very dramatic increase in participating companies to now 3,500, representing half of the world's market cap from Turkey. We invite just over 90 companies, and about 30% of those currently participate. So if you are invited and not yet participating, I hope that I will gain your interest. If you are not invited but interested in participating, that is also possible, but that is a service available against a fee. Now, what motivates companies to participate? We run a survey every year for companies to understand why they do this. The results are here. It's about 1,000 companies that participated in this extra survey, so I think it's quite representative. We ask companies what motivates them to participate, ranking 1 to 6, with 1 being most important. And these are the 3 motivators that come out highest. Most answers in rank 1 to 3 is to learn from CSA results and help prioritize sustainable initiatives. What companies always tell us is really that the value of the CSA starts with the process. And when a new company asks me if they should participate, I very openly tell them, if you see this as an exercise to move data from your system into our system, then don't participate. Really, the CSA is about accepting a challenge to be asked maybe challenging questions about how you link sustainability and business strategies, how you measure performance on your sustainability strategies. And you have to be willing to really answer these questions, not for us, but for your own purpose. And this is what many companies see value in, to really learn from the CSA process and the results to understand how they rank within their peers. Then, of course, another big motivator is increased visibility with sustainability-focused investors, of which there are more and more. I would say there's almost no big investment firm, asset manager out there that is not looking at sustainability. And the last motivator is to enhance reputation with internal and external stakeholders other than investors. And what was mentioned in the introduction was that it's not just your investors, it's also your business partners that want to deal with a sustainable company. It's your customers that want to buy products from a sustainably managed company. And it's maybe your current and future employees that are motivated through the purpose of your company and motivated by your company taking care of environment, social governance issues in a sustainable way. So let me explain with an example on how we help companies through the questionnaire understand how to connect sustainability and business strategies. And this is really core to every subject that we analyze in the CSA. It goes through the same thinking process on our end. So when we look at capital, human capital and talent attraction, and the ways to increase employee satisfaction, engagement, and well-being, that will lower absentee rates, lower employee turnover. And of course, that means that with lower absentee rates, you have higher increased productivity. Lower turnover means reduced recruitment costs. And recruitment costs is not just the cost of placing an ad, but it is the person losing efficiency before they leave. Maybe they disengage colleagues. There's a search cost involved. There are a lot of interviews by management to find new candidates. There's the onboarding costs, which is partly in the reduced training costs here. So all of that is a link between human capital and operating margin, or here increased capacity to innovate by keeping people for longer term in your company helps you potentially to advance technologies and products, and with that generate higher revenues. So the link between a sustainability and a business initiative could now be that you observe higher voluntary turnover in an area where you have a lot of employees in an age group where they become parents, and you see that they would benefit from maybe more flexible working hours, from work from home capabilities. If that is not possible, maybe to offer childcare support, to offer maybe childcare facility close to your operations, your sites, maybe even on site, so that people can come to work with peace of mind. That is a social initiative that will reduce turnover rates. It will maybe reduce lower absentee rates, and with that impact your operating margin. So this link from a social initiative to a business goal, that is something that we think through with each and every question that we ask in the CSA. So how does the process work? It's 3 Ps. It's preparation, participation, and then publication. In the first quarter, we send out invitations. We announce methodology changes. This is a very important element of the CSA. Every year, the methodology changes slightly. That means we make existing questions more challenging, and maybe from asking about disclosing on a certain topic and just giving points for disclosure. Once we have asked a number of years and we are able to see a trend in the data, we will change from a pure disclosure scoring to also add performance scoring. So is your trend going in the right direction? Have you set targets for this KPI? Have you met your targets? This is how we make a question more challenging year over year from just pure disclosure. Or it could also be that we introduce new topics in the questionnaire. About 10 to 15% of the questionnaire changes each year by making questions more challenging, taking questions where everybody is already scoring 100, taking those out and introducing new questions. Most recently, for example, more questions on biodiversity in a lot of industries, questions on living wage, questions on packaging and plastic. Participation then starts in Q2 and extends into the last quarter. The last participation window is December to January. Companies have typically 2 months to submit. There are deadline extensions if necessary. About 3/4 of companies manage to submit within the 2-month window, and another quarter needs up to a month extension. And then within, let's say, 8 to 12 weeks, you will receive your results in terms of scores, and these results get published also on our website and platforms for visibility with investors. The CSA is conducted through a secure online platform. We get a lot of praise from participating companies about the functionalities we offer on this platform. It is really not just a tool to enter data like an Excel sheet, but it is a project management tool with a traffic light system that tells you for each and every question. That's in the tree map here is the breakdown of the questionnaire. It shows you, have you started? Is it in progress? Is it at a level where an administrator should approve? Is it done? On the right, you have a lot of supporting documents and information that you can access. There are blue bars on top of each question with additional guidance, key definitions, data requirements, references to global standards. About 90% of the questions we ask are really linked to frameworks and standards that developed over the last years. There are still 10% that are not yet in standards, and these are typically the emerging topics that we try to cover early in the CSA. There is a tool for account management where you can sign up users, you can give access rights to a whole group of people in your company to work on this questionnaire together, and there are benchmarking tools and peer practices that you can access to help you better understand how you rank and how others perform on questions. This is a visualization of the assessment. The outer rings are the data points that get aggregated into questions, criteria, and dimension scores. About 50% of the questions are industry specific, up to 50, and 50% are really cross industry. You see a couple of examples here on the right. And what you nicely see in this visualization is that at each level, the segments have different sizes. So that means the weights that we assign, the financial materiality that we assign to different questions in a criterion. So not every question has necessarily the same weight, not every data point has the same weight, and not every criterion has the same weight. And this slide here illustrates the differences in different industries. In pharmaceuticals, there is a very low weight on environmental. The only question that is cross-industry here is biodiversity. All other questions are the same in all industries. It has a total weight of around 10, but there is a large weight on governance and economic and on the social dimension, with very specific questions for pharma, like addressing the cost burden, access to drugs, health outcome contributions. On the other hand, with restaurants, it gets a bit more balanced. There's more focus on environmental, but also very specific questions on food loss and waste, sustainable agriculture practices specific to restaurants, maybe food and beverage in general, or mining that has a more equal spread across the 3 dimensions, but also including very specific questions on mineral waste management, for example, or asset closure management. What you don't see here, but I will explain, is that also, even if the same criterion is covered, it will have different weights. So this segment here for pharmaceutical is related to human capital management, talent attraction, which is very, very important for pharmaceutical, as I mentioned earlier on the slide. To have a successful innovation pipeline, it is important that people stay with the company and really have all that experience gathered over the year to know what worked and what didn't work in the past. So we pay a lot of put a lot of weight on talent attraction here, whereas in mining and minerals, it has a much smaller weight. It's easier here to hire people and replace your existing workforce. As I said, about 50% of the questions are industry specific. Also, 50% of the questions on average require public disclosure. That means you cannot get any points if this information is not supported by evidence in the public domain. That could be your website or annual report, sustainability report. 35% of questions on average in an industry reward additional disclosure. That means you can get points, but to get 100 points in a question, that data needs to be publicly disclosed, and about 15%, we don't expect that to be disclosed. Now, let me explain why we do that. We noticed that companies advance on their sustainability journey, but they are not yet ready to report publicly. As an example, maybe you are looking into a gender pay gap, male-female, in your workforce. For a couple of years now, you saw that it was fairly large, maybe 30%, maybe even more. You worked on closing that gap over 3 years. You are now down to 20%. You have a target to reduce it to 0 or maybe 10%. And you have done all this action, but you're not ready to put that on your website or in your public reporting, because you don't want the 20% that you still have to be taken out of context and people just looking at that data point without seeing the full history and the positive trend. And therefore, you don't report it. Now, if we only looked at public disclosure, we would rate your company the same as we rate a company that is not looking at this topic at all. And through participating in the CSA, by providing that additional disclosure to us, that if you want, we will use purely for scoring, you can now get a score on gender pay gap that is higher than 0, and that really differentiates you from your competitors that are not doing anything in this area. This is taken from the public website, a screenshot. It is also in the ESG scores report that every company gets when they participate in the CSA, or even if they are just assessed. So if your company is invited, you can go to the CSA portal and access this scores report completely free of charge. It breaks down what is called the S&P Global ESG score into different components. One is the CSA score that is purely disclosure based, and it has this element of questions requiring public disclosure and those where we allow additional disclosure. In this industry, the share is more or less 50-50. So the maximum score in each category is represented by the black line. The solid colored box is the score of the company in this area. And the shaded area is questions that they answered, but where they didn't get full points. So this might be disclosure of greenhouse gas emissions, but the trend is not yet decreasing, so they don't get points for a decreasing trend. It might be a human rights commitment that does not cover all the elements we want to see covered in a human rights commitment. Something is there, but it's not yet meeting the methodology expectations. That is a performance gap, and the gap between this section and the black lines, that is a transparency gap. So this company is missing out on what we consider required public disclosure based on international standards, based on stakeholder expectations that they want to see this in the public domain. And there is a gap in the additional disclosure as well. Now, if a company does not participate, or even if they do participate, but they maybe as a first timer don't have answers to all questions, they are still in the process of collecting information, they leave some questions blank, then we would model this gap. And you see what we model here is not filling the gap completely, because the modeling works in a way that we look at the company's own performance against a matrix of industry peers. And if the company is a top performer in other questions that are related to the question we want to model, so maybe if they have good gender balance on the board, if they have good corporate governance related to gender in general, then also the gender pay gap question will get a score that is maybe higher than industry average. If they have a very bad gender balance on board and it doesn't look like they have any policies in place, then the modeled score will also be lower than the average score in the industry in that question. So important takeaway here, the ESG score that we provide is a mix of a disclosure-based CSA score and the modeled score component should a company leave questions blank, or we assess them based on public information. In the CSA portal, we focus on the disclosure-based scores, as companies told us they want to benchmark on disclosure and not on our ability to model. Now, let's move to the timeline. It opens on April 3rd. Then we have 2-month windows, as I said, every month for companies to participate. For companies that are eligible for inclusion in the Dow Jones Sustainability Indices, there was an important cutoff now with the August window. So if you wanted your participation-based score to be considered by our colleagues in S&P Dow Jones Indices to determine index eligibility, you would have had to participate by end of August. There's another cutoff for the Sustainable Yearbook that I will mention in a while, where the window is now end of September, but participation is still open, especially for first-timers. It's important to get started, get your first feedback, see what gaps you can close, and then maybe next year take a shot at being included in the yearbook or DJSI if you are eligible. We have started to release scores. This year, it looks like we again will have 3,500 companies participating, maybe a little bit more. And by the end of next week, we will have released scores for 1,000 of these companies already. Now, more on the use of results. The first user of the results is you as a participating companies. As I said in the beginning, a key motivator of companies that participate is to learn from the results. So as a company that participates for the first time, you will establish your sustainability baseline. You will understand where you are, how that measures up against your peers, where are your gaps, where is your explanation, your disclosure, maybe not as clear as it could be. You can learn from that data and you can close gaps and take action, and then next year participate again and see how you measure up and how you improved. We help you doing that in the CSA portal through a lot of tools that are available free of charge. You will have access to the benchmarking database. You will see your company's position relative to the industry. These are industry quartiles, and the average score in the industry. You would see question names and scores of companies that score in the top 5, and the 2 around you in the package that is available completely free of charge, together with percentile ranks, average scores, best scores, etc. You can export that into an Excel table on the criteria and also on the question level. You will get this ESG scores report that is also provided to clients of S&P Global in the ESG scores module on our website, that contains a lot of visualizations on key criteria and your performance against peers, the disclosure score analysis, and more graphic representation of your company's performance. We provide that to you free of charge, so that if an investor reaches out to you, you are on the same page when you look at the same report and discuss your results. Then another use, of course, is the indices, and this has extended far beyond the Dow Jones Sustainability Indices, of which there are different regional and country versions even. But if your company is in a other European index, the global large mid cap, maybe of S&P Global, there are also ESG versions of these indices that use CSA results to determine who is in the index and also the weight of that company in the index. I mentioned the yearbook earlier. The yearbook is a distinction. Membership in the yearbook is a distinction that we provide every year in February, where we give awards to companies that score in the top 1, top 5, top 10% in their industry, and Sustainability Yearbook member as a runner-up company. A mover is a company that exceeded from last year to this year, improved their score by 5% or more, and has the highest improvement in the industry. And we see that companies are very proud about these distinctions. We see a lot of posts of those on social media. They use it in their annual reporting. And I recently was in Bangkok, Thailand, for an event, and the company that was a winner in Thailand is in the category of shopping malls, had it on every elevator door in their malls, that they are a top performer in the CSA and received this distinction. On the global website, as I said, we will have scores of about 5,000 companies. That includes all companies covered in the DJSI and all companies covered in the Global Large Mid Cap Index, and all companies that participated, even if they are not in one of these indices. So that gives you exposure to all stakeholders that are not clients to S&P Global, with a limited set of information. This is limited to the total score, maybe dimension score breakdowns, the top criteria, and not the same background and breakdown that an investor would see. For investors, this is integrated into our what we call Capital IQ Pro platform that has a lot of research, a lot of financial information on companies. But the ESG scores module is a special module that a client can subscribe to. I have an example here of a company, what that looks like. The same analysis that I showed earlier at the top level, but it also gives the opportunity to really drill down for an investor user into the question level, and at this level, even into the data point level. This is a special offer to companies. Of course, we are allowed to disclose everything that you have in the public domain. But some companies say, for this additional disclosure, what I described earlier, maybe about gender pay gap, every investor, every asset manager asking them for this information, they would also provide it. It's not a secret that they only provide to us. They just don't want it to be taken out of context. And therefore, on this platform, a company can opt into providing this additional disclosure to S&P Global's client base and really leverage the efforts that they put into the CSA and make this information accessible. And important here is that we will provide it in the same layout as in the questionnaire, with the same key definitions, data point requirements, reference to international standards, so that really the investor user and the company are on the same page, and that it is not a misunderstanding of what was the background of the data point that was provided. Also, as an investor user, seeing it in the context of the questionnaire, they see the exact question that was asked, also elements of the question that maybe were not answered by the company. It's a lot of detail that we provide that is really valued a lot, both by companies and investors. And this platform is available now for 3 years. It has by now attracted clients in over 49 countries, representing 38 trillion in assets under management. 38 trillion is hard to grasp. How much is that? As a comparison, S&P Global's broad market index, covering 15,000 of the largest companies globally, that is 100 trillion. So it's 38% of that. That is assets under management that are in the hands of companies that are clients to the ESG scores and data module. If you are interested, how does that break down for my company? There is a new service that we provide free of charge. Call us, send us an email, and I can tell you exactly, investors in your company, what percentage of them are clients to S&P Global ESG scores and data. And many times companies are surprised. Most times we see that numbers are between 20 or 40, even up to 50% of institutional shares that are held by clients to this information. So this is the leverage that you can get. 60% of participants agreed to disclose their additional information through this platform, as they see value in this additional disclosure. With that, I point you to some additional resources, invite you to go to the portal, to the CSA website to learn more about the CSA. You can also always reach out to us. This is my global team. Here is the email address where you can reach us. We do not speak Turkish, unfortunately, a lot of other languages. But this team really, I always said, the sun never sets, operates from Manila to Buenos Aires, so that we really will be able to get back to you in a very short time. Thank you very much for your attention so far, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Robert, for this wonderful presentation. We have gained in-depth knowledge about corporate sustainability assessment. I have a question as well, but I'm waiting for the end of the webinar. I'm sure that companies wishing to engage in this process have also received important insights. I can also see that in the Q&A session, questions are coming. At the end of the panel, I will be directing the questions to our speakers, panelists. Thank you very much. Our second panelist is Mrs. Filiz Avşar Aktaş. We are eagerly looking forward to her presentation regarding the sustainability journey of smart solar technologies. Mrs. Aktaş, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Özgün Bey, and thank you, Robert, for this insightful presentation. I'm sure you will receive more application from Turkish companies very soon. And now I will try to share my presentation with you. Good morning. My name is Filiz Avşar Aktaş. I've been working at SMART Solar Technologies for the last 6 years, where I currently serve as a board member and sustainability coordinator. Today, I will try to share with you briefly our company's efforts in sustainability. But before that, first, I would like to briefly provide some information about our company. Smart Solar Technologies, established in Istanbul in 2014, is a global leader in renewable energy. The company has a focus in photovoltaic module production and turnkey solar energy project installations. Through its investments in solar power plants and innovative solutions like green hydrogen storage systems and EV charging stations, our company supports the transition to a low-carbon economy strongly.
Sorry for interrupting, Mrs. Aktaş, but I can see some shadows on the screen. It's blocking your presentation. Is
Sorry.
everybody experiencing the same thing?
I was just about to chat you. Yes, I also see squares that are blocking the screen.
Yes,
What
okay.
kind of?
It's a rectangular shape. One is just disappeared. I don't know, maybe now
Okay.
it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I
Thank
can
you.
close my screen camera if it will be helpful.
Rectangular shape appeared again on the right-hand side of the screen.
Okay, what about now?
No, the second one came into the screen. It's better right now.
Okay, I will close my camera if it's not a problem for you.
Feel free, please.
Okay. May I continue?
Sure, we can see the screen at the moment.
Okay, Özgün Bey. As you can see, we have almost 3 gigawatt manufacturing capacity for solar modules. At the moment, we have 800 megawatts solar cell manufacturing capacity. Also, we have over 2050 megawatts solar power plant investments and over 1 gigawatt EPC projects in our company's portfolio. Approximately half, 50% of our employees are women. We are proud of it. As of 2024, we are pleased to share that we have committed to gender equality by joining the UN Global Compact's Forward Faster initiative as well. Although our publicly traded company was established in 2014, its journey started in 2009 with our solar power plant investments in Eastern Europe, specifically in Bulgaria, and continued as a project developer and EPC turnkey service provider. In 2017, we started our production activities in Turkey after changing in regulations in import tariffs. With the proceeds from our 2022 public offering, we launched our first cell factory in Ala, Izmir. It was the second cell manufacturing facility in Turkey, still is. In July 2024, with the start of mass production at our cell factory, we took another step toward achieving our goal of increasing vertical integration, which is very important for us. Our company has over 2,000 megawatts solar power plants in Turkey, Romania, Greece, and Bulgaria, which are fully integrated into the grid. In 2023, we started the installation of our 130 megawatt solar power plants at the Niğde site, aiming to generate over 260,000 million kilowatt-hour of electricity annually. This investment will contribute to our 2040 net zero target, which will offset scope 2 emissions from our Ala module and cell integrated production facility. It's a very significant step toward our zero carbon goal as well. In addition, we contribute to our company's low carbon energy transition by developing energy transformation solutions integrated with solar energy, of course, for our stakeholders in areas such as green hydrogen, storage systems, and EV charging stations. I would also like to share some information about our sector. There are significant developments recently, recent years, let's say. In order to reach net zero carbon emission target by 2050, it's predicted that electricity generation will depend heavily on renewable energy sources, as you can see on this graphic. Before diving into our company's sustainability journey, I would like to also brief this information about the development of solar energy globally and in Turkey. As you know, during last COP28, member states have signed the Global Renewables and Energy Efficiency Pledge, which commits to increasing the global renewable energy production capacity 3 times over by 2030 to stay in line with the 1.5-degree climate goal. This is also fixed objective of COP29 to be held in Azerbaijan this year. Over the years, the share of renewable energy sources, particularly solar, in electricity generation has increased significantly, while the cost of electricity produced from renewable source has decreased at the same rate. Today, when we look at it in terms of LCOE, levelized cost of energy, solar and wind have become the cheapest energy sources, and I'm very proud of him. International Energy Agency President Dr. Fatih Birol also supported this by stating, "I see solar becoming the new king of the world's electricity markets." We love this statement, of course, as a solar company. When we look at the electricity installed capacity in Turkey, according to data from Turkish Electricity Transmission Corporation, Turkey's installed capacity reached over 113,000 megawatts in August 2024, while the installed solar energy capacity reached over 16 gigawatts. As a result, the share of solar energy in the total installed capacity increased to 15%. And which this is aligned with the national energy plan of our Ministry of Energy. After this brief information about our company and our sector, I would like to give some information about our sustainability journey. In recent years, sustainability was often seen as nice to have concept, but today it has evolved into a critical necessity, especially for companies aiming to access green financing. It is no longer just an option, but a fundamental requirement for business to today's market. Moreover, as Robert stated, sustainability have become increasingly important to customers, investors, and other stakeholders who now expect companies to align with global environmental goals. and demonstrate their commitment to long-term responsible practices. In this section, I will try to briefly share with you our company's efforts in this area, our sustainability journey. As Smart Solar Technologies, we focus on sustainability with an environmentally conscious business model. In fact, sustainability is our business model. Our goal is to become a global leader in developing renewable technologies for sustainable growth. With our motto, turning our face to sun, sustainability is a core element of our corporate approach and is structured as a strategic business model with very clear goals. Our company has been striving to implement green-friendly standards since our foundation. We have received the internationally recognized IREX certification, VERA certification in 2020. And in 2023, we prepared our strategy document for the period between 2023 and 2027, and presented it to our stakeholders, including our net zero roadmap. We announced our net zero target as 2040, and with these targets, we plan to join the Borsa Istanbul Sustainability Index and Carbon Disclosure Project in 2024, this year. We also plan to obtain our first ESG rating from an international rating agency as well. Our lead certification project for our Aliyah production facility is also underway. Due to very intense investment traffic, we couldn't start some processes yet, like water footprint and LCA. After finalizing our investments, we will start this processes as well. Following by the sustainability policies established by our Sustainability Committee in 2022, Smart Solar Technologies Sustainability Management System was initiated in 2023. As Smart Solar Technologies, we have established a clear distribution of duties starting from our board of directors. And I think it is very important to accept and support sustainability on board level. And starting from our board of directors down to our operational units, to manage sustainability process both strategically and operationally. ESG risk management, sustainable supply chain, and environmental management system functions are also all carried out under the sustainability unit, which is part of our chairperson office. Our sustainability committee was established in 2022 under board of directors and has been overseeing sustainability efforts across the company since then, working closely with senior management as well. As I said before, we announced our net zero target for 2040 in 2023. in line with our sustainability goals, we have set our almost net zero targets this year as well, until 2030. In order to achieve our net zero target, our efforts to meet our 2030 emission reduction targets continue at full speed. At the moment, we are working on it with my team members. And in light of these positive developments, as a manufacturing company, an investment company, we continue to move forward with our investment plans without slowing down, aiming to grow sustainably and further enhance our vertical integration, which is very important for our company. I mentioned before about our Alea integrated production facility, module and cell manufacturing facility, which has 1.2 gigawatt panel module and 800 megawatt of solar cell production capacity at the moment. We plan to increase its cell production capacity to 2 gigawatts next year at the end of this year. We are working on our LEED certification for this facility, and we will use green financing from AIB this year. A part of our investment strategy, we try to invest in different regions in the world. Bulgaria, one of them, United States, another one. We received a good investment incentive package from Bulgarian government very recently, and our plan is build a 1.5 gigawatt module and cell manufacturing capacity in this region as well. I mentioned before about our site in Niğdeborg, which is the YEKA project. With this project, we plan to mitigate our scope 2 emissions, so Alea production facility. And for this project also we will be using green financing from UK Export Finance and ING Bank. And all of these investments, SMART also a positive impact on climate change. With these investments over 238 megawatt, and with this additional YEKA project, we plan to mitigate our carbon footprint from our manufacturing facilities, as I mentioned before, and also we will be helping 490,000 tons of carbon from being releasing into nature through our panel module sales last year. Sustainable supply chain is a very important topic recently and becoming more and more important for manufacturing companies. Almost every customer of our company is asking about our sustainable supply chain management system recently. We remain committed to ensuring that our supply chain operations respect both human rights and environment. We evaluate our suppliers based on our SMART Supplier Code of Conduct, which is aligned with the 10 principles of the ILO and the United Nations Global Compact. As we declared in our Code of Conduct, in the SMART supply chain, we don't accept forced labor, child labor, or anything against human rights. Within the scope of our sustainable supply chain strategy, which was put into effect last year, our suppliers will be expected to fully comply with the Supplier Code of Conduct and polysilicon traceability requirements. Polysilicon traceability is very important in our sector due to Chinese Uyghur region effects in Europe and also in the United States. Both these regions asking for traceability requirements from manufacturing companies to import their modules to these regions. To maintain integrity, we communicate our polysilicon traceability requirements to ensure that no practices within our supply chain conflict with our Supplier Code of Conduct. And we are trying to improve this system day by day. This year we worked on our climate risks. We prepared a report, our company's climate risks. We manage climate risks by integrating them into our corporate risk inventory. We regularly analyze different climate crisis scenarios and their potential impacts on our business, and then implement the necessary action plans. Our teams from finance, procurement, risk management, investor relations, and of course sustainability come together for workshops to assess climate-related risks regularly and explore the new opportunities. And to support our efforts in sustainability, we involved in different institutions all around the world. We are a member of Ultra Low Carbon Solar Alliance in the United States, and we have a membership of European Solar Manufacturing Council in EU, and also in Turkey we are a member of SKD Turkey and UN Global Compact. In our sector, we are working with PV cycle for recycling of modules, which is a very hot topic recently. And we released two sustainability report, which can be reached on our website. This was my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Filiz Hanım, thank you very much for your presentation. I was trying to switch on my camera. We have observed that smart solar technologies excels in sustainability efforts. Consequently, your company proves its capability to achieve significant performance in the CSA process as well. I'm confident that many participants took notes to gather good examples for their own companies and will benefit from your insights. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we have come to Q&A part. I see some questions in the system. Robert has already answered one of them. Dipilwasu was asking, what are the eligibility criteria? How S&P select companies to rate? Does any company can approach S&P for getting paid ratings? And it was answered in writing by Robert.
I can answer it again if you want live.
Sure. That would be great for the other audience.
Okay, so the invited universe, as we call it, is about 13,000 companies, and this is established with a preset of rules of certain indices that we have at S&P Global, for which we are interested in having ESG scores on these companies. Any company that is not in this invited universe, and you can check your invitation status on the CSA website. I provided the link in the chat, and it's also in the presentation deck. You can go to check if your company is invited. If you don't find your company name there, you can reach out to us at csa@spglobal.com, and we can provide the CSA as a service against a fee. It's about 50 to 60 companies this year that took this route already to do the CSA as a service.
Thank you very much for the explanation. You have three more questions actually, I can see on the screen. Two of them is coming from Umte Kakça. Robert, your platform appears to offer rich data sets for clients to leverage. What's your favorite example of a client making the best use of your data and insights? And the other question is, how can data analytics be leveraged to streamline the collection and reporting of sustainability metrics for the CSA process, particularly for large corporations with complex business processes and data ecosystems? You would like to answer these questions live, I guess, right?
Yeah, I can do that. So the CSA provides insight on the score level. So it shows you how your company performs down to the question level scores, and how you rank here against your peers. It provides you with insights on the weighting that we have down to criteria level, so that you understand where to focus your efforts, because you can't address every topic at the same time. So typically companies use the weighting as an input to decide on topics they want to tackle first, and then they use the scores at a first level of feedback. But what we also provide is that we give you access to the assessed version of the questionnaire. So you will see what data points that you provided were accepted in the process and which ones were not. And this is really a free health check of your disclosure, as we tend to say, so that you see, if we stick with the example of a human rights commitment, it has a requirement to cover your business partners. And we sometimes see that companies mention business partners in their human rights commitment, but with a very weak statement. It just says our business partners have to be aware of human rights. It is not as clear as Filiz's statement, where she clearly says we do not conduct business with companies that don't respect or conduct forced labor, child labor, etc. That looked like it's very clear that you don't do that. If your statement is weak, and sometimes in the cultural context, when you deal with Japanese companies, and they say our business partners have to be aware of our human rights commitment, in the Japanese context, that is very strong. And that means our business partners have to be as stringent as we are, but it doesn't mean that in any other context. I'm German, so I can say in a German context, being aware of something doesn't mean that you comply with the rules, right? So this health check that we provide is when we untick business partners in the questionnaire. You can go back to the guidance, you see, it seems like my statement wasn't strong enough, and you can improve that in your policy for next year. And this is not just an improvement for the sake of the CSA, but it will help you have clearer communication to all your stakeholders that look at your publicly available human rights commitment. And this is the same for all data points. So we provide very detailed feedback down to the data point level, in addition with the benchmarking, with peer practices examples that companies can use to close gaps and improve year over year, with a clear focus on the most material issues. And then how do we support data collection? We don't at the company level. What we offer is an XML version of the questionnaire, with a clear taxonomy that you can either link to your own XML reporting platforms and map the data points so that it kind of automatically fills the questionnaire. We have a number of software vendors in the ESG reporting space that are our taxonomy partners. So if you are a client for one of those, then they would be able to offer the CSA as a mapped service in their ESG reporting tools.
Thank you very much. And another question for you, Robert, from Ibrahim Ünalmış. Dear Robert, at which frequency do you revise or considering to revise your methodology?
The methodology is reviewed every year.
Every year? And I can add this point to this question. What drives you revisiting your methodology every year? What factors?
Sustainability is a moving target. And we see that new issues emerge that companies need to prepare for. We start typically with those questions fairly easy, also for our own information sourcing. We ask companies, maybe, are you aware of risks and opportunities in this area? What steps are you undertaking? And then over the years, these questions will firm up, and based on the information that we collect from companies, also about how ready they are to report on certain topics, what approaches they take. We make it, I sometimes say we tighten the screws. So we see more elements that we want to have included in a certain policy. We want, in addition to KPIs being tracked, also whose remuneration is linked to those KPIs so that they are really met. We ask more challenging questions year over year. Also, we align with standards when we have an emerging topic that we included in the CSA, and then maybe a couple of years later, it is part of a general framework or regulation. We align the questions in the CSA not to ask it slightly different to what is asked in a standard or framework internationally. So that might mean some changes to the layout of the question, and sometimes additional data to be added to the question if we also consider that a material topic. Brilliant. I want to take the opportunity to comment, Filiz, on her presentation, and really the approach that your company is taking to address sustainability from the board level. That is so important. That is a key part of the questionnaire, to really not just have a manager level ESG approach, but really to address it from the top with board level committees And this is what gets a lot of points in the CSA, to have this right setup to address this really at a level where it is part of the strategic decision making and overall risk management of a company, and not down to some operational level, maybe even site specific.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I also would like to ask you a very, very short question. You can briefly answer that. What if a company doesn't answer all of your questions, leave something blank? Then what does the system do, or what does your experts do at that moment?
For this CSA score, the question, if it is additional disclosure, will be simply left blank. If it is a question in the required public disclosure, then the analyst will go through the publicly available information and see if this question can be answered on the company's behalf. If they, in this process, come across something that also applies to questions in the additional disclosure, they will also take care of that, but that's not a guarantee. So with the required public disclosure, we will look through the relevant documentation. If additional disclosures are left blank, then also for the purpose of the ESG score, modeling would apply to these questions. But of course,
Okay.
let me put that maybe in more context. If we ask for, does your company have a human rights commitment? And you say no, and nothing is in the public domain because this is a required public question, then we will not model, of course, questions that relate to this commitment. We will not model a score for human rights due diligence, human rights assessment, etc. Because if you don't have a policy, you cannot run an assessment against this methodology. Sure. So the modeling is limited to questions that make sense to be modeled.
Sure. Thank you very much. Filiz Hanım, there's also a question for you, and I have a question for you as well. It's coming from Umut Tekakçı again. Filiz Hanım, what is the most significant challenge that your company faces in sustainable sourcing and recycling of raw materials for solar panel production, and how is your company addressing this particular obstacle? You have answered this partly in your presentation, but floor is yours. Thank you.
I think the most challenging thing is to engage with the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. Because with tier 1 suppliers, we have direct contact and we can engage them in our policies. We can demand from them to accept our code of conduct. But when we are talking about polysilicon, we don't buy directly polysilicon from companies, from our suppliers. We buy cells or wafers. So we need to deal with our suppliers. This is a challenge for us. For this reason, we created our supply chain management system, and we prepared our supply chain mapping, and we make regular audits, and we also make third-party audits, specifically in China, because polysilicon sustainable traceability problem is mainly caused by Uyghur region in China. And we follow regulations in the United States and in EU very closely, and try to implement them to our management system. But it's an improving thing, and it became very became this popular very recently, so it's a new thing for everybody. We are working on it with all of our participants, investors, financial institutions, suppliers together.
Thank you. And I have a question for yourself. As a manager involved in practice. What would you advise to the companies that want to start their sustainability journey? Where should they start? What do you think?
First of all, it's a must. It's not a nice to have thing nowadays, sustainability. And you need to start from scratch. And you need to, as Robert mentioned, implement it from the board level. It's very important. And we worked with very good consultants at the beginning to create a sustainable management system in our company. We work with very good experts in this matter, and it was very helpful. And we follow the international regulations. It's also very important, I think. You need to know about United States or European Union. At the end of the day, you will work with these regions, with companies. It's a global thing. It's not a regional thing. You need to think globally, not only in Turkey, but all around the world. You will be talking about sustainability with mostly with financial institutions nowadays. If you want to reach the green financing, as all we know, conventional financing is very hard nowadays. It's very important to create your sustainability management system, I think.
Thank you very much. So as far as I can see, we have answered all of the questions. Since there are no further questions, I would like to first thank you, our panelists, for your valuable presentations. And then I would like to extend my gratitude to all of the participants. We look forward to meeting again in webinars where we can collectively gain knowledge and enhance our practices. Thank you very much for joining again. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.